everyone, welcome to another episode of Prelims Warm Up. In this initiative, we are discussing the previous year questions which had appeared in the UPSC Prelims. So, as you might be aware that the previous year questions they are very important for a holistic preparation for UPSC, and that is why it is very essential that all of you who are the aspirants for UPSC examination should have gone through the previous year questions multiple times. So in this particular initiative, which has been brought to you by Aptiplus Academy for Civil Services, we will be looking at some of the important previous year questions. We will be looking at the questions which had come from all the subjects, from across the subjects. So every day we are taking up a particular subject and looking at the previous year questions. My name is Shayak Datta. I am the faculty for Geography and Environment at Aptiplus Academy for Civil Services. So let us start with the first question for today. The first question that we have, so today I have concentrated on environment and especially from the 2013 UPSC paper. So the first question that we have is, in the grasslands, trees do not replace the grasses as a part of an ecological succession because of what? Okay. In the grasslands, trees do not replace the grasses as a part of an ecological succession because of what? A. Insects and fungi. B. Limited sunlight and paucity of nutrients. C. Water limits and fire. And D. None of the above. So to answer this question, it is important that you should be aware about the term ecological succession. What is meant by ecological succession? Ecological succession basically implies the very gradual and predictable manner in which one vegetation community will replace an existing vegetation community over a period of time with changes taking place in the environmental condition of the place. So when such changes take place in the environmental conditions of a place, for example, changes in the soil characteristics, or maybe changes in the amount of rainfall or temperature, we will get to see that the existing vegetation community will be replaced by another vegetation community which will be more adaptable to the changed climate of the area or the changed environmental conditions of the area. So like this, we will get to see a succession of vegetation community will be there. So one vegetation community will be succeeded by another one, and like this we will have an entire succession or a chain of vegetation communities which will replace the existing one. This entire phenomena, it is a predictable, it is a gradual change, and this entire phenomena of one vegetation community succeeding another, this is what is called as ecological succession, sometimes also called as biotic succession or biological succession as well. In this entire process of ecological succession, we get to see that initially an area might not be supporting any life forms for that matter, and over a period of time, dhire dhire, we might get to see that you will have very minute type of life forms. For example, grasses and all such kind of vegetation might come up, which over a period of time will be replaced by bigger plants. So first thing is this, that the very first vegetation community which gets established in an area or which colonizes an area, usko hum log kya kehte hain? We call such a community to be a pioneer community or a pioneer species. The very first vegetation community which colonizes an area or which gets established in an area where no life used to exist before, usko hum log pioneer species kehte hain. Similarly, the very last one to get established in an area or that vegetation community which is in equilibrium with the existing environmental conditions of a place, such kind of a vegetation community which actually comes towards the end of the process of ecological succession, such kind of a vegetation community, उनको climax species या तो climax community कहा जाता है. And this entire chain of species which replace one another, उसको SEER, SERE, SEER कहा जाता है. Each stage in this entire chain उनको seral stage कहा जाता है. हर एक stage को seral stage कहा जाता है. Let's say in an area the pioneer community is A, and A will be replaced by another vegetation community B. Let's say B gets replaced by C. Like this, ultimately we come to the climax community which is E, for example. So A gets replaced by B, then comes C, then comes D, and finally we have E. Each stage of this succession will be called as a seral stage. And this A to E, this entire series will be called as a SEER. This process will be called as an ecological succession. Okay, and then we have something called as primary succession, we have something called as secondary succession. So primary succession is basically that succession which takes place in an area where no life used to exist before. And when we talk about secondary succession, it takes place in an area where life used to exist before, but due to some kind of a natural or anthropogenic cause, it is possible that that particular life or that particular community might have got destroyed. Okay, so then we will call such kind of a ecological succession to be a secondary succession or secondary ecological succession. So anyway, this is just the background of this entire thing. Now, normally in the grassland, ideally what should happen, grasses should come towards the beginning of the process of ecological succession, and grasses should ideally get replaced by bigger plants like trees and all towards the end of the ecological succession. But we get to see that there are certain areas where the entire area will be dominated by grasses only, irrespective of the amount of time which passes. तभी भी आप देखोगे कि सिर्फ और सिर्फ grasses ही मिलेंगे. Such kind of areas उनको grasslands कहा जाता है, which are dominated by grasses. Trees are almost absent in such areas. Okay, so those kind of areas will be called as grasslands. Now the question is, why in the grasslands do we not get to see the trees replacing the grasses? And that is because of which out of the following? So please remember, the trees, they do not replace the grasses in case of a grassland. Out of the given options, insects and fungi, no, that cannot be the reason as to why no trees will grow or very less number of trees will grow in a grassland. That cannot be the reason. Maybe one particular species of tree might not be able to grow, but that does not mean that no other species of tree will grow. Okay, so of course A cannot be the answer. Okay, let us first try to eliminate. A cannot be the answer. Similarly, coming to B, limited sunlight and paucity of nutrients. Well, paucity of nutrients might or might not be there depending upon the area, but coming to limited sunlight, in case of a grassland, it is not possible that you will have limited sunlight, because grasslands, they do not have any canopy cover and sunlight should be in abundance. So B definitely cannot be a possible answer to this. Water limits and fire. Yes, that can be an answer, because you see, grasses, they require very less amount of water. So most of the grasslands you will find, they will be present somewhere in the interior part of the continent. Grasslands, again, you know, grasslands, they can be classified into tropical grasslands or temperate grasslands. For example, when we talk about tropical grasslands, you will have places like savanna, or you'll have places like Llanos, Campos, etc. Such kind of grasslands, they are called as tropical grasslands. Temperate grassland में क्या क्या है? For example, prairie is there in North America, pampas is there in South America, steppes are there in Central Asia, velds are there in Africa, downs are there in Australia, and similarly you'll also have the Canterbury plains which are present in New Zealand. These are all examples of temperate grasslands. Okay, so water limit, yes, because most of the grasslands are present in the interior part of the continent where the rainfall is not sufficient enough to actually support trees. So our answer should be C. Similarly, just for your information, fire also plays a very important role, especially in the savanna kind of grasslands, because over there we get to see there will be an annual fire season. Okay, so answer should be C, water limits and fire. This is the entire process of ecological succession. So initially we have bare rock, and from bare rock, initially the first pioneer species that we have, unko lichens, ya to you can have mosses, all these things will grow. Over a period of time, you'll get to see small plants will come up, and dhire dhire, as the depth of soil keeps on increasing, the nature of the grasses, the nature of the plants, they also start to increase. So initially the thing is, the plants and the grasses which will be set up, they will be very inferior types of species, but over a period of time, with the increase in the depth of the soil, with the increase in the fertility of the soil, आप देखोगे कि जो plants and trees that get established, they will slowly become superior in nature. Eventually, you will get to see a climax community will be reached, which is usually a forest. Okay, this entire process will take place over hundreds and hundreds of years. It does not take place overnight. It's not a short duration thing. It takes place over a very long period of time, इसको हम लोग कहते हैं as ecological succession. So your answer should be C. Already we have seen water limits and fire is the reason why. So now moving on to the next question that we have. The next question is with regards to something which is called, it has asked you a question. So basically let's see the question. The question is asking, which one of the following terms describes not only the physical space occupied by an organism, but also its functional role in the community of organisms? So which one of the following terms describes not only the physical space occupied by an organism, but also its functional role in the community of organisms? This was asked in the year 2013. So the answer, you have four options: A, ecotone; B, ecological niche; C, habitat; and D, home range. So whenever you have this entire concept of not only the physical space being referred to, but at the same time the functional role that the species plays in the community, that is also being referred to. So tab jaake please remember the combination of these two things. That is one, the physical space which is occupied by an organism, and number two, the functional role played by the species or the organism in the community. The combination of these two gives rise to what we call as an ecological niche. It gives rise to the concept of an ecological niche. So you can probably compare ecological niche with a normal conservative household of India. Say for example, in a normal conservative household, what do you have? You have a family, and let's say the family consists of a mother, a father, a daughter, and a son. All of them are sharing the same habitat. What is the habitat in this case? The habitat is nothing but the house where they are staying. So you have a mother, you have a father, you have a daughter, and you have a son, and they are staying within one single house. So that is why that becomes their habitat. So this implies that multiple species can share the same habitat. Habitat, it is like an inclusive concept. It includes different species. On the other hand, even though they share the same habitat, they share the same house, let's say, each of the members of the household will have different roles to play in the house. Say for example, normally, again I'm saying that this will not apply everywhere, but let's say the father is going out to office to earn. The mother is staying at home, maybe doing the cooking, looking after the kids, etc. She's a homemaker. Maybe the son, the son is sent to play cricket or whatever it is. The daughter, she is sent to practice singing, dancing, etc. So you see over here, though they are sharing the same household, though they are sharing the same physical space, but the roles played by each member of the family in that physical space, that varies. That is not the same for all of them. This, if you apply this to a forest or to an ecosystem, then we get the concept of an ecological niche. So ecological niche is an exclusive concept, which means no two species can have the same ecological niche. Understood? So in question number 2, the answer should be ecological niche. And here I have given you some examples. For example, here you can see ecological niche. It is the role a species serves in its ecosystem, and which includes what it eats, what eats it, and how it behaves. Everything, all the functions, all the behaviors of the species, everything is included. And no two species will have the same ecological niche. That is also something that you should remember. For example, here I have shown you an ecological succession is taking place over here. So initially you have small grasses and they are replaced by weeds, and over a period of time you finally have a forest coming up in this area. Now the area remains the same, but now depending upon what stage the entire succession is in, that will determine which type of species will come to feed over here. Understood? Now all the species will not come at the same time. Depending upon which stage the entire succession is, that will determine which species will come to feed over here. So this is again an ecological niche, because we get to see no two species are sharing the same area at the same time. The species are having different areas, or they are having different areas of where they are foraging, and that is different at different times. For example, this will be again an easier example to understand. You see, there is a pond, and let's say beside the pond there is some amount of land. So this entire area, it is inhabited by 5 types of birds. Flamingos are there, ducks are there, avocets are there, oyster catchers are there, and plovers are there. So when it comes to flamingos, what will they do? They will have long necks, so they'll be able to reach deep at the bottom of the pond, and they will be able to scoop out whatever they eat. Ducks, on the other hand, they are not having that kind of a long neck, so that is why they will not be able to reach till the depth to which the flamingos can reach. So they will not be able to reach till the very bottom actually, but they will still be eating something from below the surface of the water. Avocets, on the other hand, look at the way in which their beaks are shaped. So naturally, they will be plucking out their food from the surface part of the water. Oyster catchers, they'll be feeding on land. Plovers, they'll be feeding. Actually, oyster catchers, they'll be feeding at the junction between the land and water. Plovers, on the other hand, will be feeding in the same area but much inland. Okay, so you see the area remains the same, but the functions played by each of these species are different. So this is an example of an ecological. Each of these areas are examples of ecological niche because no two species are sharing the same area. So answer should be B. Now coming to the third question that we have, this is with regards to ecological productivity. So the question is asking which one of the following is the correct sequence of ecosystems in the order of decreasing productivity. In the order of decreasing productivity. So when we talk about productivity of an ecosystem, we basically mean to say how much biomass is produced by that ecosystem per unit area and in a particular interval of time. Per unit area in a particular interval of time, how much biomass is getting produced, that will determine the ecological productivity. So out of the given options, you have to arrange them in a decreasing productivity. So least will be at the very end. Here first area that should be there, that is mangroves. देखो एक चीज जो है why एक चीज आपको याद रखना है कि larger the area lesser will be the productivity, because productivity it is calculated per unit area. In case of oceans, we get to see that the ecological productivity is the least. Why? Number one, it has a very large area, so आपका जो denominator में है, that is the surface area, that is very large, so automatically ecological productivity will go down. But apart from that also, we get to see oceans, they will be having lesser amount of ecological productivity because of number one, एक तो have बहुत ही large surface area is there. Number two, they have a great depth, so naturally what happens is the sunlight cannot reach till the lower depths of the ocean, which usually remain in darkness. These areas are examples of aphotic zones. Aphotic zones mean those areas which are in darkness. You will not have phytoplanktons, and if you don't have phytoplankton, because phytoplanktons they need sunlight, but since there is no sunlight, so there is no phytoplankton. So you will not have phytoplankton, automatically you will not have zooplanktons, and automatically you will also not have any fish. So in the lower part of the oceans, forms are very less actually. Also in case of the oceans, we get to see the nutrients are there, but they are very dispersed. They are in a very dispersed manner. So ultimately productivity will be less. मतलब जितना आप नीचे की तरफ जाओगे आप देखोगे कि dissolved oxygen भी जो है वो भी कम होता जाता है. ठीक है? So basic thing is that oceans will have very less amount of productivity despite of covering a very large area. Lakes will have comparatively greater amount of productivity than the oceans because lakes का जो depth है वो काफी कम है compared to the oceans, and most of the lake water is photic in nature. So basically it is lit up by sunlight. If it is lit up by sunlight, automatically you will have phytoplankton, zooplankton and fish. Achha, grasslands will be having more productivity than lakes because it is land. So land का मतलब क्या है? Nutrients are present in the soil in a much more concentrated manner than it is present in case of water. Plus, in case of the land areas, you will get to see there will be more amount of sunlight. So naturally, grassland areas will be able to produce more biomass than lakes or oceans per unit area and in a particular time period. And highest amount of productivity will be in case of mangroves. So mangroves, they are also an example of an ecotone. What is meant by an ecotone? Basically a transition area between two different ecosystems where we get to see that the properties of both the ecosystems will be present in such an area, that is in the ecotone. Plus in the ecotone you will experience higher amount of biodiversity. Mangrove is an example of a swamp, and it is an example of an ecotone because it represents the area where you have the land ecosystem meeting with the aquatic ecosystem, that is rivers or sea. So yes, that will have very high amount of productivity, Next comes grassland, next comes lakes, and at the very bottom we have the oceans. So answer should be C. You the various productivity of the various ecosystems. So please go through it. So estuaries you can say are having very high, actually highest amount of ecological productivity will be in the case of tropical or maybe equatorial rainforest. Okay, evergreen rainforest will be having the highest amount of productivity, ecological productivity. And uske baad you have estuaries, swamps, marshes, tropical rainforest, coniferous forest. All of these will be there. So just have a look at this. This is freely available on Google. Just Google ecological productivity of different ecosystems. So answer should be C. Next, question number 4. Question number 4 is with regard to acid rain. Now, most of you are aware about acid rain. Okay, you will find that our industries, etc., even natural causes like let's say volcanic eruptions, etc., they will release a lot of greenhouse gases. Now, what happens is most of these greenhouse gases, they are examples of acidic oxides. What happens is when it rains, these acidic oxides might get dissolved in the rainwater and then come down to the earth in the form of dilute acids. Mostly we get to see it is the nitrogen oxides and the sulfur oxides which can very easily combine with the rainwater and come down to the earth in the form of acid or dilute acids maybe. They will have a very you can say a very destructive effect on monuments, etc., buildings which are made of marble. These acid rain, they can also affect plants, they can also affect animals, human beings, etc. So you can understand with the rain, if you have acid coming down, automatically that will have very severe consequences. So what is how acid rain is caused? So out of the given options, we get to see it is due to the mixing of nitrous oxide and sulfur dioxide. So mainly oxides of nitrogen and sulfur, when they mix with the falling raindrops, what happens is dilute acids are formed. So in this particular diagram, you can see sulfur dioxide, nitrogen oxides. These are emitted by industries, factories, etc. They go up into the atmosphere, and then they will combine with moisture to form acid water droplets, and finally they will come down. Okay, this phenomena is what is referred to as acid rain. It will affect vegetation and will affect, there will be wet deposition, deposition of these acids in different places. So it will have a lot of disastrous consequences, you can see. So answer should be B. Moving on to the last question for the day, question number 5. It was asked in 2013 again, and the question is with regards to food chain in ecosystems. So the question is asking, with reference to food chains in ecosystem, consider the following statements. Number 1, a food chain illustrates the order in which a chain of organisms feed upon each other. So does a food chain illustrate the order in which a chain of organisms feed upon each other? Yes, that is what the food chain does. Basically, the food chain is showing you which species is feeding upon whom, the levels at which they are feeding. So are they feeding at the lowermost level, that is the level of the producer, or the primary producer, or are they actually feeding on an upper level? For example, primary consumer, secondary consumer, tertiary consumers. There are many levels in the food chain. They are called as biotic levels, okay, also called as trophic levels. So these levels, they are there in the food chain, and the food chain actually determines, it's like a chain of organisms, okay, a chain of different species which are feeding upon each other. So first statement is actually correct. Second statement, the food chains are found within the population of a species. Answer is not within the population, but actually it is consisting of various species, not just one species. So food chains are not found within the population of a species. Third statement, a food chain illustrates the number of each organisms which are eaten by others. So does it illustrate the number? Answer is no. It does not give us the number, rather it just tells us which species feeds upon whom and not the numbers as such. So the third statement is also incorrect. You have been asked which out of the given statements are correct. So only we get to see that is statement number A. Statement A is the only correct one. Statement B and C are incorrect. So from this particular diagram, you can see how food chains look like. Trees, so you'll have the deer will be feeding upon the leaves of the tree, and then we will find lion and other tertiary consumers like the apex predators, mainly lion, tiger, leopards, etc. They will feed upon the deer. This is an example of a food chain. Similarly, you will find that there will be flowers, and flowers will attract pollinators like butterflies and all, which will be fed upon by frog. Frog will be eaten by snakes, and finally snakes will be eaten by eagles and such kind of birds of prey. Similarly, you get to see flowers. Flowers, I mean, if we are talking about an aquatic ecosystem, you'll have flowers, and flowers will be eaten by small fish. Flowers and plants will be eaten by small fish, and then we'll have larger fish feeding upon the smaller fish. Finally, you can also have some birds like pelicans and all will be feeding upon the larger fish as well. So that is also an example of a food chain, especially in the aquatic ecosystem. Okay, so your answer should be A. Answer is A. Okay. So with this, we have completed the discussion of the 5 questions of previous year questions which had been asked in UPSC prelims and which become relevant for UPSC prelims 2020. So I hope you have liked the session, you have enjoyed the session. So if you have, then please like the video, share it with your friends, share it with your aspirants, and please subscribe to Apti Plus's YouTube channel. Please also let us know in the comment section what changes, what modifications you want in the video, how you like the video. So please let us know in the comment section, and we will come back with another episode of Prelims Warm Up where we are going to discuss 5 more questions which have been asked in the previous year UPSC prelims. So till then, stay safe, take care, and thank you so much for attending this session. Thank you.
I'm an icon, man. And my girl about a 10. I should fuck her in a Benz.